Okay, so the white man's burden, he says it, and it's a little unclear why he says it. But I think the idea is that the hotel says you must control your wife and son, sir. You must correct them, um, so that he's supposed to control them. It's a metaphor for the way in which British felt like it was their responsibility, their work, to control Africa. Like, oh, it's just very racist. But that it's, and again, the use of the N word in the bathroom, right in the same scene, is I think really crucial there. But he's I think the hotel is like, just as the British Empire had to control all of Africa by civilizing them, which of course meant beating the shit out of them and ruining them. Um, he's supposed to control his family, but it links what he's doing with a larger empire and like bigger empire building, etc. Um, not allowing the elements to take a foothold. You're supposed to go out there and build civilization in the middle of nowhere, but of course it's not nowhere. The hotel's built, it's like, they're Native American people before white people got here, and they built the hotel right on top. There's some Native American imagery in the hotel at various points. Some people overdo it with that, and I'm not going to talk a ton about that. Um, so it sets up a really big theme, about sort of this terrible thing, and his whole thing about work. Right? He says, you never thought about my responsibilities to my employer. And again, he means it's my job to take care of the hotel, but Wendy's been taking care of the hotel. We saw her in the boiler room. He never does anything but work on his novel and actually just write gibberish. Um, so it feels like the responsibilities to his employer isn't the hotel managers who hired him to take care of the hotel, it's ghosts. That's his real employer. Um, he takes orders from the house. Um, cool. Okay. Um, good. Okay. And this repression stuff, I think it's worth notice. There's a couple things I want to say. Now, the one thing I want to point out here is that one of the most disturbing moments in the whole movie, and I really don't know where to put this in terms of like my whole lecture, but we gotta talk about it. How are you going to watch The Shining and not talk about the blowjob dog? One of the things I love, that Wendy sees scary stuff in the hotel, but it's like she sees skeletons covered in cobwebs, just like very normal haunted house stuff, um, which is very normal haunted house stuff. Um, and then she says, it's normal haunted house stuff. But then, and she sees the very disturbing stuff. But then she sees this room where this man in like an animal costume, with the butt flap open. She sees this guy like leaned over the bed, and then you see that there's like a guy in a tuxedo who seems to be receiving oral sex from this costumed creature. It's interesting that it's like decadent, powerful white people doing weird sex party stuff. Um, the movie sort of subtly links that with the sort of powerful white people, destroying civilization and being terrible. And it's an incredibly, it's such a dramatic and disturbing and unexplained thing. I think the idea is probably that people lived in the hotel and they did these things, and now the hotel remembers them, and Wendy's seeing the hotel's memories of these kinds of parties and things. Um, cool. So really the last thing I want to say, um, about the movie is the weird time frame of the movie, which is that at the end something funny happens where time starts to come like unglued. Um, which is the ghosts say to Jack, "You've always been the caretaker," which is an extremely confusing thing to say. I don't even fully understand it myself. But something starts to go wrong with time. So that the last thing that we see in the movie, is Jack at the hotel in 1921 holding at an Independence Day party, at a July 4th party. Um, and I don't fully grasp that. He's always been the caretaker at the hotel. It's somehow he's always, this is like, I guess there's something repetitive about it, right? Grady kills his family and Jack kills his family. So this has been happening and will happen again and happened in the past on repeat. Um, but it suggests that I told you to pay attention to the first thing you see in the movie and the last thing you see in the movie. Well, there's something really interesting in the last thing you see in the movie, which is that I don't fully grasp the time situation, except for the idea that this has always happened and will continue to happen. Again, the terrible things in the past live on in the future, right? The party, great party, isn't it? That guy's always there, on repeat. Um, it suggests, that this is just repeat. The history repeats itself. The history book on the shelf is always repeating itself. To quote one of my favorite philosophers, not a philosopher, pop group in the 1970s called ABBA. I love ABBA. But the fact that Jack is shown at a Fourth of July party. Now, I don't want to make too big a deal out of it. But the fact that Jack is at a Fourth of July party, what does July 4th celebrate? The founding of America. It's interesting that earlier in the movie he mentions the white man's burden, that civilizing a place. Again, very racist. And then he's shown in 1921 at a party celebrating sort of the creation of America, as if it was created in the middle of nowhere. Well, they had to kill, genocide piles of Native Americans in order to create America, so that there's like horror and nightmare killing. White man's burden. Got to civilize, kill all the native people and move in, basically steal from them. It suggests something really complicated about. History. Like the movie at the end seems to be making some kind of commentary about the repetitive historical violence that the murder of the Native Americans and with the Fourth of July party and some of the Native American imagery in the hotel, and the fact that they're in Colorado or whatever, although Native Americans were everywhere. And then the use of the N-word, which suggests America's history of slavery. That last image of Fourth of July makes it feel like we should think about larger issues. It's not just about one guy's killing of his family, but about how America is founded on violence and built on violence and a kind of repetitive, crazy violence that we don't know what to do with, and that the past has never passed. That like the hotel remembers the blowjob dog, and that we will remember the destruction of the Native Americans and the creation of America and the enslavement of Black people. It still lives on today. People say the N-word, and it's bringing up the history of all the violence in the past. So the last moment in the film really suggests, much like larger, you've always been the caretaker. It enlarges the movie. Before that final shot, you might think this is just a movie about one guy and his family, but it ends by suggesting it's about all of America. So I think I have completed The Shining. So thank you for joining me for this ridiculous video, and watching all of these, and I love you all. One last thing I will say is there is a movie about theories of The Shining called Room 237. I've seen so many, I love going to movies. I've seen so many movies in my life. That movie is one of only 2 movies in my entire life I've ever walked out of because it's a piece of shit. Don't watch it. It appears to be making fun of crazy people and their crazy theories about The Shining. Don't watch it. It's horrible. There's also a sequel to The Shining called Dr. Sleep. It is not a masterpiece like The Shining, so you can't expect it to be, a brilliant piece of filmmaking. It is fairly entertaining if you want to see something fun. It's actually one of the better villains I've ever seen, particularly interesting because it's played by a woman, Rebecca Ferguson, who does a great job, and Ewan McGregor plays the grown-up Danny. It's interesting and complicated because it is a sequel to the movie and to the book, which is weird because the movie and the book are different, and so the movie, the Dr. Sleep has to do weird things to sort of combine the book and the movie. Worth seeing just for funsies, but it's not a brilliant piece of cinema, and stay away from Room 237 because it is a completely piece of shit movie. Okay, thank you for joining me for this. I love you all, and if you got this far, thank you for watching. All right, bye.